Welcome, golfers, to the 16th episode of the Read It, Roll It, Hole It podcast. Today we are with the super talented and super fun Ffion Tynan. Hi, Ffion.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. All is good. Enjoying the Welsh weather at the moment?
Yeah, it's beautiful. The rain and the wind all coming in at once. It's beautiful.
Perfect preparations for your next step, going to the States. Is it the Razorbacks you're joining in January?
Yeah, I'm starting at the University of Arkansas in January, at the start of January, for my university career for four and a half years, I think. So I'm super excited to get that going, but hopefully the weather is a lot better than here.
I can't imagine it will be any worse, so you should be all right.
No, it can't be.
Can't be worse. Ffion, just tell the listeners a little bit of history about your sort of your junior career and your sort of golfing career so far.
Yeah, so I've been playing golf since I was about 8 years old, so a long time now, almost 10 years. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
I started out a bit different to most people. I was on holiday in Disneyland, and I was quite a stubborn little 8-year-old kid, and my sister wanted to go back to one of the Disney parks, and I was adamant I didn't want to go back there again. So my parents were like, well, we can't leave you in the hotel, and it was just so happens that we were staying in a golf hotel. And I was like, I'll do anything. And there was a junior camp on that day. So I was like, I'll do that. So I went and did that and enjoyed it, had a great time. And the coach was like, have you played golf before? I was like, no, never. And he was like, well, I think you stop playing now. My dad came back to pick me up and was like, are you kidding me? Like, of all the sports you could have picked for a girl, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So that's where I started. And yeah, it's progressed from there, really.
Happy days. That's a cool story. Was that you would just before we come on, you were talking about Johnny Mac teaching you with plastic clubs. I guess that was a little bit before that, was it?
No, it was after it, actually.
Oh, was it?
So I started with like junior clubs that you'd get at the golf club, and then I went home and we didn't really know quite what to do from there. The junior systems, obviously for girls, when I was growing up, wasn't as good as it is right now. So my parents and I didn't really know what to do. So we heard about this golf club that Johnny Mac was doing, and there was like plastic clubs out, and I was like, let's just do it. So me and my best friend at the time went, and we had a great time, and that's how I started probably getting back into it. And then probably I went to maybe 3 sessions, and then started going to the range more often and getting coaching lessons and stuff and entering tournaments. And I think I got my first handicap when I was about 8.5, 9. So it was all quite quick turnaround.
Wow.
But yeah.
What was your first handicap?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I remember it being like low, but not ridiculously low, you know? I don't remember what it was, but I remember my dad being like, I don't think they did it right.
Oh, right.
I was like, well, I shot these scores, and yeah, I could play to it. He was just surprised that it was quite low. I don't remember.
Days.
I was too young.
I guess it's come down a few shots now.
Mm-hmm.
What's your handicap to date?
At the moment, before the World Handicap system, it's +3. So, yeah.
So what was it? What's it after the World Handicap system?
That's the problem. I haven't quite figured it out yet because I was changing clubs and it got lost. So it's a whole other background to that story.
Oh my God.
But the England golf and Wales golf are working it out. So I'll find out eventually.
Will you need it for the States? Like, it doesn't matter. They don't really play handicaps out there anyway, do you?
No, not really. It's more like getting into tournaments when you get back over here, like British Am, like the women's amateur and stuff. They look at handicaps and they look at your WAGA ranking. So it's always helpful if you know your handicap, you know?
It definitely does help. WAGA rankings.
World Amateur Golf Rankings, yeah, sorry.
Thank you for that. I thought that was some crazy Welsh thing. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds all exciting, going out to the States then for 4.5 years. Like, how did that come about? And yeah, tell us some more.
So I've been around a lot of. I've been in Wales golf for a long time, and I always had the older girls to look up to. And I remember going into one of their sessions, and they were all about like university and college golf, and they were telling me, like, they were talking about it, and I was just sitting there kind of thing, and I was listening, and I was like, oh, that sounds so fun. So like I went home, and I was like, Dad, what am I gonna do about like university? And we were like, I was maybe 12, 13 at the time. He was like, no, we're not stressing about university right now. So I just like looked at people, and like the people I looked up to were doing that kind of thing, or at least thinking about it. So I looked into it, and I just fell in love with the idea of being able to be part of a team and study, which you hadn't really heard of before. Well, I hadn't anyway. And yeah, decided to put my name out, sent some CVs to certain colleges when I turned, I think I was 15, 14. And I kind of, like, we did it ourselves. I know a lot of people go with different companies these days, but we felt that for me, I'd like to have personal correspondence and not have a middleman kind of thing. And then
Sure.
obviously the regulations were like, well, they can't speak to you unless you ring them. And I was like quite nervous. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to ring these college coaches. Like, what if they don't know who I am? What if they don't care? So I rang a few and like sent my emails to quite like the top 25 colleges at that time, Division 1. And I then was out in America, and I was talking to this one lady called Riley Hendry, and she ended up telling me, she was like, oh, you really should go to college. So we ended up working with her, and she became a good friend of ours. And she introduced me to the University of Arkansas because she was good friends with the coaches at the time. And I was like, oh, like, I'll put my name. Like, I wanted to go. I was like, proper British girl. Oh, I want to go somewhere sunny. Let's go to Florida. You know, I was like, yeah, I only want to go to Florida because Florida's hot. And I just spoke to quite a few colleges and I had quite a few like offers on the table, unofficial offers, because obviously I was quite young. And I kind of just fell in love with everything to do with Arkansas, and I loved the coaches. And I said to Dad, he was like, oh, you should commit there. And I was like, I can't commit to a college I've never seen before. I can't say that I'm going to spend my next 4.5 years of my life, 4 years of my life at a college I've never seen. So I said to Dad, I said, can we go for a visit? So we went for an unofficial visit, which meant the coaches couldn't be there. So we kind of like went onto campus and we had a look around, and I was like, it's so pretty here. Like, I think we went like end of November, and it's like fall, or what they call fall out there. So it was like the autumn leaves were like all so pretty, and the campus was covered in like really pretty like trees and stuff. I was like, Dad, this is so pretty, like, oh my gosh. And and then I went and saw the golf facilities and stuff, and I was like, I just don't think I could go anywhere else. This is like perfect for me. So I visited. I was like, I didn't want to get ahead of myself, so I ended up visiting a couple more colleges and decided, I was like, this doesn't compare for me to the colleges in America, in Arkansas. And I was like, I'm gonna have to go here. This is the only place I could ever imagine going to. So yeah, I finally committed, and then I've been Razorbacked up since I think January 2018, 2019, something like that. So
Oh, wow.
maybe December 2018, I think I committed. So yeah, it's been a long time, so I just can't wait, really.
So it's been a long journey, and like all of a sudden it's like 4 weeks away. Is it the 6th of Jan you're going out, or?
Yeah, it's kind of scary, actually. I feel like I've been wanting to go there for so long, and you kind of think, oh, I remember when I committed, I'm like, oh, it's still 2 years away, you know? And then obviously 2020 has been 2020 and the year's just like gone so quick. And I'm like, everyone keeps talking about how I'm going away in weeks, and I haven't like nourished myself to say it's weeks yet. I'm still like, no, it's still a month and a week or something like that. And they're like,
Next
no,
year, it's next year.
Yeah. And they're like, so it's just a maturity thing. I think I'll be fine when I go out there. It's just daunting right now to think I have to like live by myself and do everything by myself. And I think that it's a great learning experience for anyone who wants to do it. I think it'll just make your life so much better to be able to do things independently, and live your own life doing something you love, really.
It must be daunting to, what are you, 17?
Yeah.
So like, you're still, young. I know you've been playing golf for a decade, so you feel like you are still quite young, and it's a big sort of jump, and it's a long way from home, isn't it? How do you think, are you a home girl? I think like by the sounds of it, you are.
I mean, I think I love being at home. Whenever I've gone away, I've always craved being at home. Sometimes when you've gone away for a long time, but I think because I've been traveling since such a young age, you kind of don't get that attached to home, if that makes sense. You just, your home is wherever the people you love are, kind of thing. I know it's cheesy and whatever, but it kind of is. So I've always traveled with my dad. So we'd just like make it work, and I'd go on the road I remember one year I didn't come home for like 6 weeks because I'd be tournament jumping and practice rounds and stuff in the summer. And I love doing it. I love traveling. So I think that for me, I can't wait to go out there because I'm quite an independent person. But I think that I'm just going to miss, because I've been home all year. I feel like if 2020 would have been normal, I would have been less nervous, but I've been home all year. Like, I've grown attached to having the things in my house, which I haven't normally done. Like Christmas, for example, we've always done Christmas in America because I would have tournaments that we'd go and play in. So for me, it's kind of like, well, I got Christmas at home this year. This is so exciting. I'm like telling my mum we need a new Christmas tree. I'm going to deck the house out with Christmas stuff. And I'm like, it's like weird for me because I'm usually like an on the go Christmas kind of thing. So we do Christmas differently than most people. But I love that. So it's kind of different this year, I think, for everybody. But yeah, I can't wait to go, really.
That's great. Super excited for you. That's cool. You mentioned Wales Golf. I think let's have a good conversation about them because, Neil Matthews and his team have been a big part of your journey, would you say? And, have been, a huge sort of support system for you. Tell us some more about the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I worked out the other day. I've been part of Wales Golf for 9 years now. So most of my golf career, actually almost all of my golf career, I've been part of Wales Golf, and I'm forever grateful for everything they've ever done for me. I mean, Neil is amazing. Honestly, I couldn't give him a better word. He's the best coach I've ever seen in the world, I could say. And I know other people think the same thing.
Totally.
He's very particular, but he has a joke and he's quite sarcastic. He makes you funny. And he's just everything he does, there's always something because of it. So he'll never ask you to do something. I didn't say that right. He never asks you to do something without giving you a reason to do it, if that makes sense. So in the past, I had a couple coaches when I was really young, and they would just say, oh, you have to do this, and not give me a reason as to why I'm doing it. And that was hard for me because I'd be like, well, why am I doing this? So I bug him all the time. I'm like, Neil, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But he'll always give me a reason and help me to figure out what's best for me. Like, I know everyone's different in golf, and that's what's amazing. Everyone has different swings, and he's not trying to change your swing. He's trying to make it more efficient and make it the best way he possibly can. And I love that I still feel like myself and not feel like my swing has to change because of being with a new coach kind of thing. And yeah, he's always on the end of the phone when you need it with some sarcastic comment and making you laugh and then telling you not to stress. I know I don't like swing thoughts on the golf course. So I know I've texted him about 1,000 times in the middle of a tournament being like, Neil, it's going left. Like, what's going on? Like, I need to know. And he's like, Ffion, relax. Hit the ball out the middle of the face and then it's fine. So it'll be like little things that is just like, they'll make you laugh and just make you have a better time and just tell me to relax a bit, I guess. And yeah, that's basically it.
No, that's wonderful. I got, nothing but admiration for Neil. I think his knowledge is, second to none, but as a communicator and, working with athletes like yourself, he does a wonderful job of sort of having that player coach relationship. So,
absolutely,
long may it continue. That's good.
Yeah.
So will you
for a long time?
So yeah, you're going to be ringing him from the States going, wow.
Absolutely. And the best, sorry, that's my dog. The best part of it is he works so well having people travel. So he's been through it before. He knows that America is what I want to do and what I want to follow. So having that.
It's all right, no worries. It's funny, I can see the video of the head. It's like giving you hello, Claire.
So I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
What are you talking about? Neil Matthews having a
relationship with the coaches.
Yeah.
So ever since I said I wanted to go to America, he was like, the first thing I want to do is set up what is best for you and have the best interest at heart with wherever you go and whatever coaches you have. So he made it his priority to FaceTime the coaches I'm going to be spending most of my time with in America. And he was like, look, I'll do anything to help me kind of thing. He's like, if they ever need to ring me, I'm always here. If they need a text, like I'm here. And he set up this, he's very like smart with the stuff he does. Like he sets up these plans for me and he's like, this is what your habits are. This is what your, like how to fix your habits. And he sets up these charts that are just like amazing. They like wow me every time. So I've got charts upon charts that I just send across to the coaches in America. And then when I say, oh, I'm hitting it left, they can go through the chart and be like, well, have you checked this, and this? And the good thing about Arkansas too is the coaches are not overbearing. They understand that the likelihood I'm going to be with Neil for the rest of my golf career is high. And obviously they're not going to be able to travel with me. They're just my college coaches. So having that relationship between the two of them is really nice to be able to go out there and know that there's no fight against it. It's more of a, we're going to work together to help you, not I'm saying one thing and I'm saying another thing and you can choose which one. Because I know like on certain situations, I've been in that position before and I know other people who have, not with college coaches, but with other people. And it's the worst thing when you're like, why, who do I listen to? I have my coach that's been coaching me for years, or this person I'm going to be spending my time with for so long. And then you're constantly battling yourself. You're like, well, I don't want to disrespect either of them. So it's kind of like good to be able to feel comfortable and be like, they're going to work well together and they're doing what's best for me and not what's best for them.
Yeah, 100%. You're in wonderful hands. You're in good arms. You'll be just fine with that team. Yeah. Ffion, when we sort of met up, we did a session. Like the thing that came through very clearly, sort of very evident, was how dedicated you are, and you seem to be a very old head on young shoulders, like a bit of an old bird for a young girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
where
So.
where does that sort of inner dedication come from? What's that? What's your why?
I think having a drive, knowing where your goals are. I think this year I've had lots of time to reflect, and it's just kind of a thing where it's like, what am I trying to get to? And you've got to remember that the little things that are going to annoy you, if they're not going to matter in 5 years' time, regardless of golf, in life with girls and boys and whatever, if they're not going to matter in 5 years' time, why are you wasting your time right now thinking about it? So I use that. I think I saw that quote one time on TikTok or something ridiculous. And I just saw it. I was like, that's actually kind of smart. Like, if I'm going to, like, it's like crying over spilt milk. I know I'm a very sensitive and emotional person, and anyone who's ever met me will say the same thing. Like, I do get emotional on the golf course, and I've learned to not let my emotions define me, but let them help me. I've always in the past been told, oh, you're not allowed emotions. It's not okay to be an emotional person. And I was like, well, that's really hard for me, because even off the golf course, I'm an emotional person. So have to be like, I remember referring it to like a robot. I was like, you want me to be a robot on the golf course? And they were like, well, if it stops you having emotions, then yeah. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous. I can't be myself and play golf like I play golf if you want me to take that bit away from me. So it's very different for me to look at it this way, because match play, I love match play, but it's such a heightened emotion for me. It's like a different game to me, match play. It's like everything matters just a little bit more, but everything is so interchangeable. And it's like a wonderland for me. It's like you can go through one hole and make double and be annoyed, but you can go on to the next team, pretend that it's nothing because it's only one hole down, or you've lost one hole. And I think that having that in your head in match plays is the best thing. I think that I play my best golf when I play match play, because I'm quite emotional driven. And yeah, I just love it.
You could hear the passion sort of screaming through the or really sort of coming through the screen, not screaming, coming through the screen. That's great. Just on like your emotions there, like you are an emotional person, so how do you control your emotions on the golf course?
I mean, I think it wasn't until probably the start of this year I thought that I had a very, how do you word this? I had a very tough going with psychology. I kind of was fighting myself with it and never really got settled into it and actually put my full 100% into my sessions. And I do, in hindsight, I think that if I could have got to the state I'm in right now 2-3 years ago, I would be a lot better than I am right now. And I think at the start of this year, I was like, look, we're in lockdown. I can't play golf apart from outside in the garden. I can't do anything, and this is really difficult. And I made it my goal. I was like, what can I do right now that is still going to help me improve my golf game without sort of getting on the golf course kind of thing? And I was like, this is finally the time for me to suck it up and get inside my own head. And I worked really hard with my psychologist with Wales Golf, Charlotte. And we worked a lot on me telling her, I was completely open with her. I was like, look, we're starting again. I'm a new person. You've never met me before. Let's start again. And I was like, look, I want to be allowed to have emotions because I am an emotional person, but I don't want them to affect my game. So we worked a lot on how I don't perceive my emotions as a negative thing and help them to not be as catastrophic, if that makes sense, to my golf game. So we worked a lot on breathing. We worked a lot on what I thought was beneficial. So I think like we had a session the other week and I came out with something. She was like, that's amazing. I was like, I'm allowed to be angry. If I'm hitting it OB, I'm not going to be like all happy, smiley, am I? And she was like, well, no. I was like, well, but I'm also getting angry if I miss a 10-foot putt for par. And I'm like, how many 10-foot putts am I actually going to hole? And she's like, well, depends on your percentages, but it's not going to be that high. And I was like, but I'm getting annoyed at myself for missing a 10-foot putt. I'm like, well, it's not great, but if I can't warranty myself and go after the round, say someone come up to me and be like, why did you get upset over that 10-foot putt? I can't say, well, I missed it. And they'll be like, but you're going to miss a 10-foot putt. It's not a 2-foot putt that you're going to knock in. You've been ridiculous and just tapped it. Like it's a slopey putt. Like you've got to understand and appreciate that you are going to miss them. Whereas if I went to someone, I was like, I got angry because I hit an OB, then if I can warn myself for being angry and allow myself to think that actually after the round, I can say, look, I did get angry today, or I did get upset today, but it was for like a valid reason. I know it sounds ridiculous, but in my head, that was what it meant. Like if, you see these people get angry for like missing a 15-foot putt for birdie or a 20-foot putt for birdie, and they're like getting angry. And I'm like, well, let's think about this. Okay, I'm allowed to be angry, but let's not be angry to the scale of like a 8 out of 10 angry. Let's just say it's a 1 or 2, like I'm gutted, but I'm not like having a tantrum about it, Whereas if I've just hit 4 balls OB, I'm allowed to be angry.
You should have a tantrum.
Exactly. So I think that it's allowing yourself to figure out what's best for you. Some people benefit off being non-emotional on the golf course, and I commend you for that, but I'm just not that person. So I think it took me a long time to figure out what was best for me, and now I'm still working on it. It's always going to be a work in progress. Work in process. And I think that having that at the back of your mind and being like, look, let's review this. Let's think exactly where it goes. So I statement it. I'm like, well, if say I missed the green left, I wouldn't go, I missed the green left. I'm like 10 yards left of the pin. And then working that into your mindset. And it's like, well, if you say you're 10 yards left of the pin, that's not that bad. But if you're going to say to yourself something like, oh, I missed the green, that sounds worse, if that makes sense. In heightened tension and you're under pressure in a big tournament, like you've got to be careful with how you word stuff to yourself. So it's all about wording stuff in a different way that helps not limit my emotions, but helps me to just have a second to actually process it. And then by the time I get to the next ball, I'm fine and I'm ready to play the best shot I can.
Love it. It's managing your expectations, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you hit 4 balls out of bounds, like you should be a bit pissy. Like, but if you miss a 20-foot putt, which like the pros is a 1 in 10 chance, the pros hold like, and if you miss one and you're having a bit of a fit about it, then you ain't gonna have a long career in this game. So it's great you're sort of acknowledging that. So that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it took me a while to do that. I remember being annoyed one time because I missed like a 30-footer on the lip, and I was annoyed at myself because I left it on the lip. And I was like, I just thought about it. I was like, I've hit a 30-foot putt and it's almost gone in, but we're getting annoyed because it didn't go in, but we didn't expect it to go in. It was kind of like one of those putts you're going to give it a go, but you're expecting to like 2-putt kind of thing. You're trying to hold it, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to miss, maybe even more.
Yeah. So, if you 2-putt from 30 foot, you're world class.
Exactly. So I was like getting upset over me missing it on the lip. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Why are we getting upset? We should be happy. Like I just hit a great putt. It just hasn't gone.
Like that. Love that. Ffion, you mentioned like you come up with something clever or something funky a couple of weeks ago with your psychologist.
Yeah.
Can you share with us what that was, that clever idea that she thought was amazing?
Yeah, it was just more of an outlook on what I've been doing. I think that we just I just sat in my room. We were talking, and I just blurted out that I think that doing the stuff I've done now can push me so much further than what I've done in the past. But it was looking at it, like I said just now, I was like, if I can give a valid reason as to why I'm getting angry, then I'm not going to be annoyed at myself. That's okay. It's more of a, as long as I'm true to myself and I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be annoyed at myself at the end of the round for getting annoyed, if that makes any sense. Because sometimes I'd get upset over like a golf shot, and then at the end of the round, I'd be upset that I got upset, if that makes sense.
Totally,
So having a go at myself for getting upset, instead of being like, actually, if I got upset for a valid reason, say, I don't know, say I made like an 11, and I got upset, I'm like, well, I'm going to be annoyed I made an 11, but I'm not going to be upset that I got upset, you know? If that makes sense. I remember saying it to her and I had to repeat it again because she didn't get it. But it was kind of like a realization to myself that was like, actually, I'm okay with myself being who myself is, and I'm not going to be a less emotional person because that's what people wanted me to be. I'm going to be like true to myself and allow me to do these kinds of things. But as long as I'm giving myself a valid reason to do these things, then what anybody else has to say doesn't matter, as long as I am okay with what's happened and that I can give myself a valid reason as to why it's happened, if that makes sense.
Totally. I think, like, what you're saying, over the last year, you've really grown up, and and as I said earlier, you've got an old head on young shoulders, and long may that continue. And I think it's great that you realize you need to work on your mind. For me, like Simon Dyson was saying this the other day, that 33% of golf is your craft, so that's your technique. 33% is your body, and 33% is your mind, and you need to work all three areas. And I love that. That, and I think you're doing that. And yeah, it's a great sort of way to be.
I think 2020 has been very different for everybody. It's been a tough year. I know the start of the year was the worst half for me, and it was kind of like a time for me to just take a minute. Like, we haven't got anything going on right at that moment in time. It was kind of like the tournaments were being cancelled one after one, and you were kind of getting disappointed because you were like pressing really hard, ready for the next tournament. All of a sudden that's cancelled. And I just like had time to sort of be myself and like reflect on stuff. And I was like, well, I've never been very much of a technical person, if you want to put it like that. I never, drives Neil insane, but I'll never like drill technical for hours. I am not that type of person. I don't enjoy it that much. But I will happily go and have a one-handed competition with you, or like play a competition and play against the boys. And even though 9 times out of 10 they'll beat me because they're driving it like 200 yards past me, I'll give myself the opportunity to try. And I was like, well, I have so much fun when I do those things. How are we going to get that to happen in a high pressure situation? And it was all in my head. And I think for a while okay, this is very open of me.
Go for it.
I went to tournaments for when I was younger. I used to go to tournaments, and you kind of didn't know who anyone was because you were just starting out, and you kind of just go into tournaments for fun, and you're meeting new people, and you're wearing cute outfits and whatever. And I'd go to tournaments and I'd have so much fun and I enjoy it, and I got a couple of trophies here and there and was competing. And then for a while I kind of like not went downhill, but didn't have the best of tournament records. Like, I would shoot 69 and then 82, and it was very fluctuating. And I would go, but the problem was I'd go into the tournament.
Ffion, go for it. Just let it out. I see your face saying,
I'd go into the tournament already placing myself down the field because certain people would be there. I'd go to the tournament thinking, oh, well, so-and-so's there, so I'm automatically not going to win the tournament. Because these people had better world rankings than me. They were higher in the rankings. They were better known. They had better seasons. They were playing better golf than me at that point in time, in my opinion. And during this year, I reflect on that. I never really thought of it. I knew it was at the back of my mind, but it was sort of a subconscious thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't into psychology, it never really came out. And I remember thinking about it after a psychology session. I was like, this is what has been stopping me recently. I'd be like going to tournaments and thinking, oh, well, I always go to tournaments to win, but there'd be something in the back of my mind being like, well, so-and-so's playing here, so-and-so's playing here, and they've been picked for this, so they're going to automatically come above me. So all of a sudden, I'm dropping myself behind 3 or 4 people. So I'm already 5th if they come first, second, third, fourth. And it was this year, and I was in the summer, and I was like, let's just cut this out. This is ridiculous. If I play my golf game, I can compete with anybody, because everyone's going to have an off day, no matter who you are. If you're number 1 in the world, whatever happens, everyone's going to have one of those days that isn't the greatest day. And I was like, well, I can compete with anybody on their best day, and I can compete with anyone on their worst day, and the same thing for me. But I'm putting myself in a mindset where I was already putting myself behind people was limiting my success. It was limiting my ability to believe in myself, to be able to get into tournaments and be in contention in bigger tournaments like women's event. I was always very daunting in women's events. I was 15, 16 playing huge women's events. And I was like reflecting on, I was like, I've been playing huge events since I was young. I was playing like under 18s events when I was like 13. But that never had an effect on me. But for me right now, as an older person, as a 16, 17-year-old, I was daunted by a women's event. I'm going to be there next year or the year after even. And I went to tournaments. I had 3 tournaments this year in the season, and it still baffles me right now. But I had 3 tournaments, and I went into every tournament this year. I was like, right, let's just 100% wholeheartedly put 100% belief in myself and play golf the way I play golf, and whatever happens, happens. And let's not put the pressure on myself, unneeded pressure on myself, to try and think I have to play outside of my skin to compete with what I thought was better people than me. And I went to tournaments, and I've played some of the best golf. I've had some of the best results I've ever had. Like, I came 5th in English women's, and I didn't even play like unreal golf. And I think it was just a massive eye opener for me. I was like, I've been holding myself so far back these years. And I said to my coach, I said, I didn't even like play to my A game that week. Like, I was struggling, but I struggled enough to still be able to play. But I also had that mindset of 100% believing in myself, that no matter what happened, I came off that golf course. No matter what I scored, I came off that golf course. I was like, I did everything I could today. I gave it my all, and then, well, let's see where I finished. And I came 5th, and I was like, and I shot even par, and I was like, I could have been so much better too. And it was just kind of like a wow, you were dumb for a long time kind of moment. And I think just having that belief in myself helped me for British Amateur too. It was like my first British Amateur, and I just couldn't wait to be there, and I just couldn't wait to play and see what I could do, and not put, everyone's going to feel pressure. Like, it's a huge event. It's the first time I've ever played in it. Like, people are there, people are selecting teams, whatever happens. And I was like, I'm not going to put an extra pressure on myself that is unneeded. Like, let's just 100% believe in myself and see what happens kind of attitude. And yeah, it was just a massive eye-opener for me.
Fantastic that thank you for being honest and sharing that. And it's like the eureka moment. It's like, yeah, you were like putting so much pressure on yourself and doubting yourself, and that's that's really cool.
Yeah.
Tell me, Ffion, with how do you? We're talking about managing expectations. How do you manage other people's expectations of you?
You're really getting into some deep stuff today. Yeah, we're still working on that. I've always, ever since I started golf, cared about what everybody else thought of me, cared about what everyone else was saying. And I think, again, in my massive review of this year, at the start of this year, I was like, my thing, like I said earlier on in the episode, I was like, if I'm not going to care about what these people have to say in 5 years' time, or what they've just said to me in 5 years' time, I'm not going to care about it right now. And it was kind of a thing that I still care about everyone else's opinion, and I'm working on myself to allow that to not affect what I think of myself. And I think that's one of the reasons I thought so. I had less belief in myself in bigger tournaments because of what other people were saying. And it sort of like dampened your confidence and dampened how you thought of yourself. And thinking about it now, it's like, why would I do that to myself? Like, I'm never going to reach my full potential if that's what I'm going to let affect me. And a lot of people struggle with it, and I'm still one of those people that do, but it's working on it and thinking, well, actually, no, I don't agree with you. And I kind of didn't want to upset people. I like making people happy in everything. So I was kind of like just agree with them kind of thing. So if we went to tournaments, I remember one tournament, and we were playing in a team event, and the foursomes partner I had kind of was struggling with herself, and I at the time was quite bubbly and let's go out to win, and we were playing against really good people and we were really young, and it kind of was like a attitude from the other person, like, let's just lose in the least amount possible. And I have never gone to a tournament or a match play tournament for the least of that going, I'm going to lose. And I think that I would just be like, I'd look at them funny, and then I wouldn't have the guts to be like, well, actually, no, I don't agree with you. And I think that after that happened so much, not just that case, but like little things would just build up, and I would start thinking about that myself. And it's actually something I'm working on right now with Charlotte. Is I have it in my notes here. It's like, I need to be aware when other people try to change my opinion of what I believe in. I have certain beliefs that we've worked on, but it's been I don't like to be rude. I don't like to go, well, I completely disagree with you, blah, blah, blah. But I will be like, if I listen to them too much, I'll take their opinion over mine. And it's sort of like I need to be aware of what they're saying, but I still need to stand for what I believe in. And kind of having the confidence to go sometimes just not reply. Sometimes, because that would be a bigger thing for me than to start an argument over something ridiculous. And I think that it's worse the closer the person is to you, with their expectations. Obviously, everyone's expectations of you are going to be high. And I struggled a long time, probably about 2 years ago, with going to tournaments and thinking I have to win this, otherwise I'm disappointing people. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. And
100%. I
think looking at it now, I'm just like, the only person you're going to disappoint if you put that much pressure on yourself is yourself. And because you're not, like I said, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to reach your full potential. If you're putting that added pressure on yourself, golf is hard enough as it is. Golf is a hard sport, and all you need is a bit of wind and it just goes up. You already have the pressure of being in a high ranking event. You already have the pressure of loads of people being there, like selectors, maybe, whatever. the last thing you need is to put extra pressure on yourself, especially when you don't have anything to cope with the pressure. That's what I was struggling with. Like I said, I was emotional, and I'd go into the tournament and I'm not a person to be like shaking with nerves on the first tee, but the nerves would build, or the pressure would build throughout the round. And all of a sudden I have a massive outburst, and I'd be like, well, I'm starting with 100 times of pressure. It's only going to go up. When you have like a 4-foot putt you have to hold, it's just every little thing is going to make that go up. So why aren't we starting at like a 50% pressure, so you have the time to get to where you were starting the pressure, if that makes sense?
Totally.
And I think it's just taking what other people say with a pinch of salt sometimes. You've got to find what your team is around you. And if they aren't part of your team, or if the people in your team aren't supporting you the way you need them to support you, to speak to them about it and say, look, like, you said this and I took it this way, because I have the habit of taking things the wrong way too. And they're like, well, that's not what I meant. And I was like, I know that now, but at the time, this is what I thought you meant. And being forward like that, being close enough to your team, as you want to call it, that you can able to have that conversation and be like, look, I know you didn't mean it, but this is how I took it. So maybe next time, can we word it in a different way? Or can you say, this is not what I mean, but this is what I'm trying to say? It's just so I think sometimes the first thing I would say is you have to make a team that you 100% wholeheartedly trust, and you know that they would do nothing but the best for you. I think that if you have anyone unsure in your team, to speak to them about it or find someone new. I think that if you can't wholeheartedly trust someone in your team, then it's not going to benefit you, because, like I said, golf is hard enough as it is. You need everyone around you being 100% supportive, and most of the time you do take it the wrong way. I know I did 100 times. I would take it the wrong way, and they were like, well, Ffion, that's ridiculous. That's not what I was saying. But yeah, definitely make a good team and speak up if you need to speak up about it.
That's good. It sounds like, well, yeah, you've you're on it, and you're certainly, like, even since I saw you in June or July, whenever it was, that you're that next step along the line here now, and it's awareness, isn't it? It's just being aware of your emotions and your feelings, and you seem like you're in a great place there, like very aware place. Long may that continue, and long may that you keep working on that mental.
Definitely not easy. It's very difficult.
Yeah, 100%.
I have to be 100% in it, or you're 100% out of it, because I think that's what I would like dabble in it for a while. I'd probably give it about 65%, and to get what you need to get out of it, you have to give it 100%.
Yeah.
I think having that and being like, this is going to be tough, but you have to be tough enough to give it a go, that has helped me really. And I would recommend it to anyone else. Even if you, like, I know a lot of people don't struggle with pressure and emotions. There are like people I've spoken to that don't have that. I still would have a psychologist in your team, because from what I've learned in just not even a year has changed my outlook on golf. And some days are more difficult than others, for sure. Like, I think yesterday I was on the golf course, I was like, this is a tough mental day, because I wasn't hitting it badly, but I was just like slightly off. And the days just slightly off annoy me more than when you're quite a bit off, because you're so close to being so good. But I think having someone in your bag to talk to about it is the best thing you can do, really. And know that they're doing the best for you, and not doing anything different about it, really.
Love it. No, love it. I know that your sister's a very talented golfer. do you help her with this sort of part?
I mean, my sister just turned 15. She's off 6, 5, something like that. And I think with psychology, I tried to copy people. I think that when I was younger, when I was about her age, I saw all these people on TV, and you'd have men throwing golf. I remember Rory throwing the golf club in Trump's Lake and him bringing it back. And I was like watching TV and stuff like that. And you'd always with psychology, it's different for every single person. No two people are the same. And that's what I struggled with. And I think that if my sister has anything she needs help with, I'm always here, but it's something you do have to learn for yourself. Not that she listens to me much anyway, because I mean, it's hilarious when we go on the golf course, because I'll give her like a helping hand, like with something, like she'll be hitting it a little left. I'm like, oh, it's only this. She's like, no, it's the two. And then next day, she's like, Ffion, I worked on this. Does it look better now? Or she'll say to Neil or one of the golf coaches in Wales Golf, and she'll be like, my sister said this. Is this right? And like, I've been working on this because Ffion said so. But she never admit to me that she took my advice. Never in a million years will she say that. But
definitely not. No. So she shouldn't.
No, she never will.
That's cool. That's good. Ffion, I'm enjoying this conversation. Thank you. And I wanted to let's talk, before I come on to you. Let's, like, one of our junior girl golfers the other day. We were talking, and she said, "How can you help me deal with when I play a bad shot, when I play a bad hole? I really find it hard to let it go, to not affect me for the next shot.
Okay.
And normally when I have a bad hole, and it's like a spiral." And like an example that happened a few weeks ago, Tiger Woods, you've heard about his 10 and then his bounce back of 5 birdies in the last 6 holes. What would be your advice? So Lucy Brown, 12-year-old golfer at Ross, is asking you, how can you help me?
I want to tell her that I was exactly the same, and for her not to feel like she's an anomaly or like an alien to this thing, because I can tell you for a fact now, I was exactly the same, and so are hundreds of girls. And I remember...
And boys.
Exactly. Everyone is exactly the same, even men, women, boys and girls. Everyone does it, or until you figure out what works best for you. But I think that you having to be able to get over it, it takes a lot of work, because you have to look at it as though... I remember my Wales golf coach one time telling us all as a group, Paul Williams telling us, and he was like, I want you to think of 18 holes of golf like 18 exams. Every hole is a different exam. You can't take what you learn from a biology exam to a maths exam, or a biology exam to an English exam. It's not going to work. So you have to think of it like you have different... There's got to be a cut-off point. So I remember I was talking to Lydia Hall. She did a Zoom session with us with Wales Golf in the summer. We did like a Q&A session, and one of the girls asked her, how do you get over a bad hole? And she would say, well, I would throw my ball in the bin, or I would throw something in the bin. And that would be the cut-off point for her. And so one of the girls, bless them, they were young, and they started actually throwing their golf ball in the bin. And he was like, the coach was like, you don't have any golf balls left. She meant it metaphorically. Like, even if she threw like a chewing gum wrapper in the bin instead of an actual golf ball, that was the end of her hole. And she was like, right, let's start again. And I think for how young this girl is, I think having something and just thinking, okay, well, let's go to the next hole. Let's forget about it now. I know it's cliche, but for you to be able to stop the roll, stop the spiral. It's got to be like I said, exams. You've got to take them as a new thing. And to get over it, I would say what I did was just think about it logically. Think about it like, okay, well, this has happened, but I can't fix it right now. I can't go back and start the hole again. Unfortunately, I don't have any mulligans. It's not like the PlayStation or whatever. We don't have mulligans. So you've got to go into the next hole. It's like, okay, well, I am annoyed and I'm a little bit upset that I've had a bad hole. But the last thing I want to do is let that hole define my round, or let the hole spiral so it does define my round. And it's kind of like you've got to learn. It's really difficult, because I know I struggled with it for so long, and I think it was a maturity thing for me to be like, that's the end of that. But I think my advice to her would be, take a new hole as it comes, and as soon as you write the score, whatever it may be on the scorecard, put the pencil back in your pocket, put the scorecard back in your pocket, and pretend it never happened. And think of it like you're starting again. You're back to hole 1. It looks different, but this is the first hole for you, and let's go and play the next hole as best as we can. And if it does spiral, because I remember I would say that to myself, but subconsciously I'm still annoyed and it's still affecting me, my hole. Just allow yourself to give yourself a minute to breathe. I know I had a really bad habit. I'd have a worse hole, and you know, when Ready Golf came in, everyone was like obsessed with that. I love Ready Golf, best thing invented. Annoyed, so I just grabbed my driver out the bag and just hit it off the next tee. First one off, I just had the worst hole, but I just hit it. And my dad was like, give yourself a second to breathe. Give yourself a second to turn your face from red to orange, or from red to pink, just so it goes down a color, because you're like annoyed. You've had a bad hole. So give yourself a second, I would say. And like I said, talk about it after. I know it's hard for me to talk about it because it's different. Unless you're in someone's head, you don't know quite what they are thinking, or whether they're annoyed that it's happened or think that it's the end of the world or whatever. I think it's just giving it a second, allowing yourself to breathe, and pretending it's a new hole as soon as you put that glove on, or like having a trigger. I remember talking about a trigger in your pre-shot routine, and lots of people trigger would be when they clasp the glove back onto their hand, and that would be, let's start hole 1. And I'd go through it in my head. I'd be like, on the tee from Wales. Like in my head, I remember doing that one time. I was like, I am crazy, but this works. And I think that's how you get over it slowly, but don't think it's going to happen straight away, because it's hard work, and just give yourself a chance to breathe, really.
Thank you. That's great advice. With breathing, do you have breathing techniques? Like you wouldn't say just breathe. Like what's your how does it work?
I've only learned this year as well, so she's got plenty of time. If she's figuring it out now, this is gonna put her way ahead of the game. But I did a lot of work of breathing, but closing your eyes and like shutting your senses, and then opening senses one by one. So for example, like I'd shut my eyes and then I'd say to myself, what could I hear? So I'd be breathing, normal breathing, just in and out. And I'd be like, well, I can hear this, and I can hear the birds tweaking, or I can hear someone playing a golf shot, or I can hear clapping. And then you'd like smell, oh, what can I smell? And I was like, well, I can smell whatever. And then you'd open your eyes and you're like, well, I can see, and you'd look up, if that makes sense. You could see the pretty leaves on the trees, or you could see the sun shining. All of a sudden, the last thing on your mind is what you've just done. It's all, oh, well, this is really pretty. I'm really lucky to be here today. And lots of people would love to be in my position right now, and love to see the pretty trees and hear all the birds tweeting and stuff. And just, that's what helped me to allow me to be settled.
That's amazing.
Yeah. and
Class.
make a happy place. My happy place was the beach. So in my head, sometimes I'm like, oh, waves, pretty. So yeah, I sound like a lunatic, but yeah, that's all works for me.
I think you sound like a genius, Ffion. I mean that honestly. That I think, like, yeah, you're saying like a lot of the right things here. It's amazing. It's yeah, you're smart.
Thank you.
That so that's like a form of meditation you're doing on the course there, really.
Exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
It just took a while. I did a lot of stuff in-house, like doing stuff with purpose. Like I remember Charlotte, because I'd struggled so much in the past with having a relationship with a psychologist, like I said earlier on the episode, she worked on different things. And we looked at mindfulness. And it's a new thing psychologists are looking into. And she read into it. She did all her research. And she was like, I want to try this with you. I want to see if this is going to help you. So we tried it, but I didn't do anything to do with golf for 3 months. So I was still going out on the golf course or in the back garden at the time and wasn't getting any better. And this was frustrating for me because I wanted to be at ease with my mindset. And we did. I remember sitting in the corner of a room and like doing these new breathing techniques and stuff. And then she was like, I want you to wash the dishes. And I was like, huh? I was like, are you kidding me? She was like, but I want you to do it with like purpose. You know, when you wash the dishes, you never really think of anything, do you?
No.
And she was like, I want you to be aware of where your mind goes. So she was like, I want you to follow this method. So I had all the method down and she would, like, I had a voice recording on my phone at the time and I would listen to it in my headphones and she'd be like, first apply the soap, blah, 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 blah. And then you get so bored. Your mind just wanders. But I had to write down where my mind was wandering to. So it was allowing me to be aware of stuff like that. And I think awareness is the first step to learning anything about yourself. Because I think a lot of us go to a place in our head and completely forget about it. And because it's just like a whirlwind. And to actually think about all the things I was thinking about while I was washing the dishes, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I was making a to-do list in my head, washing the dishes. And she was like, okay, so we worked on this a while and I managed to be aware of what I was thinking and be able to wash the dishes at the same time. And it was kind of like that's exactly what I do on the golf course. But it's completely different. I'm thinking of 100 things either to do with golf swing or with what's just happened or whatever, but I can still do the task in hand. And it was kind of like I have the ability to think about all the things I can do, but still complete the task to the best of my ability and not let those thoughts affect my task. I could still wash the dishes having 101 thoughts in my head. So that means I can still play golf having 101 thoughts in my head. But I've got to sort of like be 100% focused. And if you focus on, so I remember doing it on the golf course, probably it was last weekend, and having just that pinpoint focus of where you wanted the ball to go, even though I had thoughts in my head, they would kind of push to the back of my mind. So in the forefront, all I was focused on was my golf shot or where I wanted the ball to go. That those thoughts didn't affect me like they used to affect me. So I think, yeah, it's just one of those things.
Brilliant. Really good. Really good. I think like when you look back to this conversation today, I think you'll realize, you know, how amazing individual you are. And I think when you are out in the States and you are going to have your bad days, I want you to come back and listen to this.
Okay.
Really help. I think that'll.
You sound like a lunatic, but no,
not lunatic. You sound like the opposite, like clever.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Ffion, I've thoroughly enjoyed that conversation today. Thank you very much for coming on to the podcast. Where do people sort of find you on Instagram, Twitter?
I have an Instagram.
TikTok.
I don't make TikToks. I just stalk people. I have an Instagram at Ffion Tynan, FFIONTYNAN_golf, and my Twitter is Fifi Golf, so FI Golf. So yeah, you can find me on both of those.
Brilliant. Great stuff. That was a joy. Thank you very much, Ffion, and all the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.